A risk assessment is a systematic evaluation of the probable risks that might occur in your learning activities. First of all, you need to identify the hazards. A hazard is something like falling down steps, and the risk is the probability of that actually happening. Your risk assessment should show that you've properly recorded all the potential risks, you've recorded who might be affected by those hazards and risks, you've made a record of what the obvious risks are, so you're not getting bogged down in tiny detail, you're looking at the really big things that could be a problem, and that you've also put in some precautions and any further actions that might need to be taken.
We have to think very carefully about health and safety because we're a very large site. Our track is a mile long, but we also have a large woodland area as well, so we've got to cover all stops.
When we risk assess Holdenby, we risk assessed it from the car park. We meet them, they come en masse through into the education yard, as it were. The gate is shut, the children are safe because that area has been formed as the education area. And then we look at things like the cobbles, the uneven surfaces. We mentioned the steps in the house, any rugs in the house.
So we have to think about what the schools need and how they can be as safe as possible.
It doesn't matter if your risk assessment comes out as a high risk, you can still run the activity. You just need to make sure that the precautions are followed really closely and adhered to all the way through.
Hazards that the schools need to be aware of are the obvious ones, like we have a lot of very uneven surfaces. We also have to think about moving vehicles. Again, that's not too bad because you can hear them coming. If you go up on the woodland walk, you've got to look at things like insect bites, allergies to plants, all those sorts of things, and it's thinking through everything that might happen, what they're going to come across.
The risk assessment should describe the hazard and the risk in detail so that someone who wasn't familiar with your session could pick it up and follow it and understand it.
All schools are sent a generic risk assessment when they book. That's standard, everybody will get that. It's also on our website so anybody can just download it. If they're just thinking about coming, they can download it.
It's important that your risk assessment isn't all that your teachers rely upon when they're visiting your sites. They need to use that as a tool and do their own risk assessments of your activities, preferably on a pre-visit.
Every school is different. Every teacher knows their class, knows what their class are likely to get up to. I don't. I can't predict that, and the teacher is more able to predict what might happen. So we do encourage pre-visits so that they can use that generic risk assessment as a basis to do their own.
It's a legal requirement that you risk assess your workplace and the activities that happen in it, and it's very good practice to have these written down so that anyone could pick them up and use them. It's also important that if you are judged for the Sandford Award, your judge will expect to see copies of those risk assessments.
The risk assessment, you think that, oh yes, golly, but it's not. If you keep on top of things and you work things through, it's nothing to be frightened about. It's a case of finding a substitute for or finding a different way around it. For instance, today we're using salt dough pastry. We used to use sugar icing. So many children now have allergies to food colouring and to eggs. We've substituted that with the salt dough. Cheaper and quite easily done.
If you're not confident with writing risk assessments, there's a lot of information on the Health and Safety Executive website. It's very simple and easy to use, and there are some risk assessment templates on there for you as well. Risk assessment should be reviewed annually, and a note made of this on the forms. And it's important that you don't try to risk assess everything. You can't legislate for everything that might go wrong. You're just looking at sensible precautions for the biggest, most obvious hazards on your site and in your activities.
We never say we can't do. We always try to find a way around it. So if a child has mobility problems, then we find out where he can access, and then we'll find him a job relevant to the day that's happening.
One of the best things about Crich is that part of our collection is our running fleet. Every child that comes, every family that comes, every adult, they all love that ride on the trams and they all experience it and just enjoy it. Every museum, you should be able to enjoy the visit and without saying, don't touch, don't do this, don't do that. Think about what you can do.
So it's important to keep a balance between making sure your sessions are safe but also still fun. So you shouldn't risk assess things to death, because otherwise you'll end up with children not actually doing anything while they're on your site. As a Sandford judge, I'd be looking for activities that are safe and fun for children to learn in, and teachers will be looking for this as well, which is why risk assessing your learning sessions is so important.